Hello, welcome to the Paper Snob. This is Tara. Today I'm working on Scraplift Crafternoon with my tribe of Scraplift Crafternooners. We are going to be scraplifting Brandy Joe, who is Scrappy Boy Mama over on Instagram. I'll have her information linked below. She created a really gorgeous 2-page layout recently, and I asked her if we could scraplift it, and here we go. So if I am on target, there will be 2 videos on my channel today. If I'm not, then there won't be, because we're still doing 30 days of sketches and I cannot combine it with Scraplift Crafternoon. So the goal is to have both up, but in case I don't, I'm just warning you that it may not be there today. This one takes precedence over extra hops. So I am using my October counterfeit kit. This is a kit that I created from my own stash. It is based upon a Sweet Shop kit, and I can link my blog down below so that you can look at it. But here are some of the papers that I have in my kit, and I knew when I was building this kit that it was 30 days of sketches, so I put 2 of many papers in here just so I would have stuff to play with. And so I know that on the left-hand side of Brandy's layout, there are 24 2-inch squares. On the second page, we'll be pulling in some of these other elements as well. She's got buttons and title and place for journaling. And I'm going to be using some very old family photos. Not sure what year they were taken. I will have to ask a relative, probably one of my aunts, when they were taken, so that I can get the proper date on here. But this is my maternal side of my family. It's my mom and her siblings and my grandparents in these photos, and they're super old, and the photos that I have are actually scans and reprints of the originals. And one of those I am actually going to be reprinting myself because it's not a full 4x6 and I want it to be a 4x6. My photos are also a little bit different orientation than Brandy's, and I have less photos, so I'm going to be kind of just working around that design element on her page because of that. So I'm going to pause. We're going to get started with cutting these 24 squares, and I'll be right back. All right, first things first, I've got to get everything into focus for you, and I have pulled out my wood grain. I really love this wood grain paper. I think I would buy a full 25 pack of that wood grain paper. Unfortunately, it came from a paper pad, and I'm pretty sure there were only 2 sheets, and you're seeing those 2 sheets here. So I've already cut out the 2-inch squares for this, and I've sorted them so that they're easy to grab and add to my background. I will note that even though I used a trimmer to cut these and thought I measured each and every one accurately, sometimes they just don't line up very well here. Anyway, I'm just gonna go ahead and get these on this background, and as I'm doing this, I am saying this mantra over and over in my head: you will not stitch on this layout. You will not stitch on this layout. You do not have time to stitch on this layout. Girls, that didn't work, not even a little bit. I ended up stitching on this layout just because, that's what I do. Anyway, I thought I would kind of just rearrange how these went onto the background. Like, I got the first 2 rows, and I thought I would change it up. But I ended up seeing that no matter what I did, I was going to end up with 2 of some of the colors stacked on top of each other, and I'd rather they all be at a diagonal. So this is what I'm doing. I'm just going to do it all the way down the bottom. I think this would be a lovely design around the edge, a border of a 2-page layout as well. I've done stuff like that in the past, with photos even. I have a Christmas layout that I managed to get something like 28 photos on it, but I had cut them down to go around the edges of the layout, and I really loved how that one turned out. It wasn't one I did on camera, and it was an Allison Davis sketch that I was using, and we're not really supposed to show her sketches on video or even like on Instagram or anything. And out of respect for Allison Davis and the Scrapbook Generation team, I would never do that without their permission. So anyway, I am still just kind of finagling these squares around, trying to get them onto this background as evenly as possible. And I am struggling a little bit. Now you'll note that I'm only putting glue down the center diagonally of each square. It's like my brain knew that I needed to not heavily glue down these squares because I was going to stitch. And yep, I stitch on these. I do it off camera. And I just kind of randomly choose some squares or some places to stitch. There was really no method to that madness at all other than to just get some stitching down. You know, this is maybe part of my roots because my mom is a quilter and I grew up watching her quilt things, and so maybe that's why I had to stitch, because this reminded me of a quilt, and so I decided I had to make it look more quilt-like. I just love the texture that's, you know, stitching does for a layout. It makes it really pretty, and I think it just brings a lot of focus to the layout. I had included that yellow crochet trim in several of my counterfeit kits this year, and this is the last piece of it. I have used some of it. I just didn't have quite enough to do a double page layout, but I thought it worked very well for edging this particular layout, and so I added it to the end, and I love the texture that it brings. I had to do a little bit of work off camera here. I went ahead and I glued down that crocheted piece, and then I took the time to mat my photos, and I had to change up the right hand side of Brandy's layout a little bit because of the orientation of my photos. Hers were all portrait orientation, mine are landscape. And so I ended up just doing a small grid style on the right hand page using the pattern paper to fill in the fourth spot. And I'm going to build journaling there. As you can see, I added a 3x4 card that I cut down a little bit and used a frame on top of that. And now I'm just kind of embellishing around it. The other difference with my layout versus Brandy is I'm using quite a bit of floral elements as well as the clusters of buttons that she used. I do get buttons on my layout, but ultimately I did change things up just a little bit in favor of the style of photos that I have. Now, as of doing my voiceover, I still don't have any information about these photos. I am pretty sure that these photos were taken sometime in 2001 to 2004 while my family was in Germany, because I don't remember Mom talking about getting these photos taken. I just remember getting them in the mail at some point. But nobody actually knows the exact date they were taken. They suggest that it might have been around my grandparents' 50th wedding anniversary, and when I asked for the year for that, everybody was like, I don't know. So I'm going to try to look through my old layouts from family photos, because I'm pretty sure that I scrapbooked my grandparents' wedding, and I'm hoping that means that there is a date of some sort on these photos. If not, I may have to go digging in my Ancestry.com account to see if I can find the actual year there. Grandma is a little bit forgetful right now. I think she's got some dementia setting in, and sometimes she doesn't answer questions very well. And so I haven't tried to talk to her either. Anyway, I love how these clusters came together. All right, I got my layout completely done, sort of. There's no journaling yet because when I texted family members for information about this photo, these photos nobody can remember. So I'll have to get to those later. My best guess that these photos were taken sometime between 2001 and 2004 while my husband and I were in Germany. But I'm not positive of that because I'm not in these photos. In case you were wondering, maternal grandparents, this is my mom and all of her siblings. There are 8 children altogether. And so I have left room for journaling. I have left room for a date on here, but everything else is completely done. I really was not going to stitch this layout, but I'm telling you, this design was begging for it. So I stitched off camera, and I love how this turned out. I think it really brings great focus to the family photo. And then, of course, I had to change things up just a little bit on page 2 from Brandy's design. I loved her layout. I'm the one who chose it for us to scrap lift this week. And my intent was to copy it just about exact. But in the end, I just ended up copying the base design on this side exactly. And then used this space over here for the other 3 photos. And just kind of did a grid design with some embellishments. I also added flowers to mine, but I still kept her clusters of buttons on here because I have a lot of these decorative buttons from Hip Kit that I do need to get used up. I love them. I just haven't found the right photos yet to use them. And since they matched my papers and my kit for October, they got put into my counterfeit kit. And so I really like them. I want to thank you so much for coming to my channel today. I'd really love it if you guys would watch the playlist that I have below. I change up the playlist every week for each new scrap lift so that you can just watch the videos about the layout that we are currently scrap lifting. But these ladies are extremely talented. They all have a different take on each week's layout. It is really fun to see what they do and see how they change it up or if they do it exact. And you know, we all kind of do our own thing sometimes. Sometimes I'll go rogue. Sometimes I'll go half rogue, and I kind of think that's what I've done here today. And sometimes I love the layout, and I want to make it exactly the same. So actually, most of the time, I love all of the layouts. But, you know, with different photos, different papers and stuff, you kind of have to make things work. You guys have a great Sunday, and have a great rest of your week. Bye.